What's up, Zox fam? We're back with some more Etheria Restart. Now, we have to get into the maintenance patch notes that was dropped. Just giving us a little bit more insight on how exactly this update coming tomorrow is going to look like. Now, the thing is that I also really want to highlight what I feel like is happening, because I know there's been a lot of things that players have been asking for, feedback, suggestions, and I want to talk to, and just from my personal experience, what we experienced for those of you guys that have been on the channel for a long time, with another game we played called Dislight. Now, the irony behind this is that Dislight, or the company that runs it, Lilith Games, and XD Company are actually in the exact same building. They're a floor apart from each other. So I want to kind of talk about that in a second. But with that, we're going to go ahead and get into the maintenance patch note. Now, the thing is that with the maintenance patch note, they just letting us know that Nifo Noel and, of course, Bat Speed are going to be up on banner. Now, the thing is that, and I highly recommend that you guys check out Sion's video, because he talks about like the industry standard a little bit more in depth, and I'll kind of touch on that just a little bit. But I feel like the thing that they're pushing right now, it kind of is like information is kind of all over the place, right? Like I think some of us can agree that we did hear that, hey, you know, we're not pushing for, you know, there to be this like push of SSR banners. Like we're gonna have like one, you know, SSR banner, you know, as far as like RGB. And then, you know, the next clump of information is, well, we want there to be 100 characters in the game by X time. And so it's like, under the impression of that, it's like the only way they can realistically do that, obviously, is by pushing, you know, more banners, right? That's like realistically the only way. Now, I don't know within the translation if they were like if they intended it to say like we're trying to push more SSRs, or if it was combination SSR and SR. In my opinion, that would make sense, right? And it would actually be easier to do that in a confined like singular banner where you have like a rate up SSR and then you have an SR that you bring into the game. I would argue that that can also still make you money. You know how many people actually like were trying to pull on the Lilium banner just for Nilu, like alone, right? Like that unit definitely did help out a lot of players' accounts. So I don't feel like personally that everything always has to be an SSR in order for it to be implemented or pushed into the game. But I will say that like there's two sides to this, where, and really it's three sides, right? Because I feel like if you're going to be doing banners like this according to the industry standard, most games don't usually push this many banners, right? Like they usually will have an old returning banner, like for players that maybe missed something, and a banner for a new character, right? Like if you look at like the Hoyo, you look at Wuthering Waves, like that's kind of like the set in tone standard. Even if you look at games like E7, they usually have like a returning banner, like for a unit that's already existing in the game, and then it might have like a new limited banner unit. And then there's like those, you know, those group summon banners and like limited events that they do, but the game is, you know, 7 years old, so they're a little bit further ahead. But you know, when you just kind of look at the standard, they, you know, have kind of a structure that works to really maximize profits, right? Now, again, this might get a little bit more businessy when I say things like profits and stuff like that. But like in reality, that's what you have to kind of consider. You know, I run businesses, and like that's what you have to kind of be on top of, is like how exactly are, you know, consumers or the people in, you know, that's putting, you know, time, money, whatever it may be into your product, how are they actually intaking all of that? Now, there's a couple of different things that, like I said, are kind of in mind with this and why I feel like they're doing this. But I will say, like, the only other thing that you can really do is, like I mentioned before, these characters need to be coming out with like little to no investment required for you to really be able to get them to work, because there's just no like lattice, and it doesn't even matter if you're spending like that. Like people aren't just going to be able to realistically build these things up as they come out, and that's including spenders, by the way, which is like kind of crazy when you really think about it. But I also feel like, you know, when we are also talking about types of characters, usually supports have been the basis of characters that have come out with little to no investment required. We haven't had any DPS come out like that. So anytime I see a DPS, I'm just like, well, they need to be built, right? And I mean, that's, I like, again, name one where it's like, this DPS pops off with no investment. I haven't seen it yet. So like, I think that that's the thing that I always kind of look at. It's like support, we can kind of argue, yeah, they could come out the box and just be amazing. But DPS, a lot of times, they need investment, right? And I'm not arguing the fact that you have to invest into them. I'm arguing more so the sentiment that a lot of players are really pushing, which is the ability to build them, especially if they're pushing them as like this character is going to help you do this. Well, it's like, well, I'm still stuck here and I need the investment to make that work. So hopefully it doesn't really require much investment. And I'm at least hoping that with the support, which I think that's Nifo Nael, she actually, isn't like that crazy at all. So we'll have to see come the update, right? Now, of course, with that, hold on, let me actually check one thing, because I know they said they were adding them to the archive, and I don't think they got added just yet. Yeah, they'll add them tomorrow, I'm assuming. Okay, because I know like their scheduling is just weird. But moving on, the banners obviously are going to be our 80 traditional, pulls, which is going to be 160 pulls, right? So that, and I mean, that's at most 160 pulls. You obviously can get it earlier, but that's like the worst luck possible. You have to go all the way to pity. Typically you don't, but it's not to say it's not possible, right? Now, of course, with this, they said that they're going to have some new outfits. Are these going to be reskins or like legitimate outfits? They said they were trying to push legitimate outfits, but I don't know if they've had enough time to actually do that yet. So I wouldn't be surprised if this rotation is just still reskins, because this might have already been planned. Versus like afterwards, we'll be seeing like legitimate skins. So we'll have to see. They did some new stuff with the module shop, select shop. So now there features a new select shop. So each day the shop randomly refreshes 10 mythic modules, and players can view detailed attributes of the modules and purchase their favorites with module essence. They're doing this so that the module essence have more value, because as is, it's kind of garbage, and they probably noticed that they don't really sell much for it, to be honest, because there's no point. Like, it's just like what, you're just gonna give me RNG garbage? Yeah, I don't want that, right? Wish Machine, the Ephemeral Sojourn series, I guess that's probably going to be for the Chaku, if I'm not mistaken. The module Forge event, and the way that this is worded is that they have a workshop to craft one basic and one core module. Now, that's going to be kind of interesting, because it says defeat threshold enemies to earn more energy shards and forge your favorite power modules or powerful modules. So I'm assuming it looks like we can farm threshold to be able to get the energy shards. So that might be a drop that's being added to that to give more value to stamina that's being spent there. And then over time, as you are farming that, you can actually craft, right? Now, again, I think we've all been asking, everybody's been kind of saying the same thing. Module, forging should be in the game permanently. I think that, again, it's good that we got it in the game. I think over time, it will be put in the game permanently. So I think it's just kind of the early things that happen versus like what's going to happen later on. I feel like we're going to see systems like this put in the game permanently. It just kind of ends up having to be, like, because that's the grind of the game. Like, it's going to have to be. So I don't even really need to go too crazy into that. Now we have something called the Neon Mirage event that's going to be happening. So it says during the event, special contender round battlefield skins for Etheria, Neon Mirage, Time Court, and Phantom Stage will be available for a limited time. Come pick out your favorite battlefield skins. I don't know if this is like purchasable or if it's actually like obtainable just from participating in the event, because we'll have that wish event that happens that it's like an event, but it's really a purchase event. So I don't know. But it says it's something. So we'll have to see. Let me know if you guys have more detail on what this is specifically, because I haven't seen anything else posted on it. So I'm assuming with how it's worded, it's skins essentially, but I mean, we'll have to see. We'll have to see. Now there are some issues and fixes that they have as well for different things that they had that were bugs. So the shell, like Halloween, will reduce skill cooldowns abnormally under certain circumstances. Shadow Sania display abnormal model when reviving dead Animuses, which I have had that happen before. There was a stutter issue between multiple attacks with Yelly. So I'll have this link down below so that you guys can check out all of the fixed issues, because there are a lot of just bug things that we were kind of experiencing, but nothing too like notable that's like, oh, that's gonna like change the whole game, So that's basically that. And yeah, so that's what the patch is looking like. Nothing like too crazy or out of the way. Now I want to actually talk about this a little bit more in depth, right? Because I feel like what's happening right now is something that we had happen on Dislike, right? And this is something that not as severe, but I think it is definitely it's definitely in that spectrum, right? And the thing is that the process didn't feel great. I'll kind of give you guys a little bit of a backstory, right? So when we were playing, or when I used to cover Dislike, Dislike did a similar release to what Etheria did, where they launched global, but it was like certain regions, but they didn't launch CN and they didn't launch JP right away, right? So that was the servers that we were basically waiting for, and it took about, I think it was like a year or 2 years for those servers to launch. But we had a what I would call a content drought. Now, you can ask content creators that are actually creating on this game right now. You can ask Scion, you can ask Sturby. They were there during that content drought. We probably didn't get like legitimately new content for about 7, 8 months, maybe 9 months, right? And that was like the worst thing. I think like a lot of us at that time, we loved the game. We were enjoying the game. We were having a ton of fun, right? And what was crazy about that was, actually, I don't need to do this. What was crazy about that was that we were like in a place where they were asking for feedback. So, I mean, dude, Sturby gave them like an entire like book basically, and I'm exaggerating, but he gave them a ton of like information and feedback on how they can fix PvP. They had asked for it. You know, I was giving suggestions for some PvE stuff, primarily PvE, PvP. I was giving some suggestions for, and mainly PvE. And so it was the whole community just trying to work together to add value to the game. You know, reviving it, if anything, right? Breathing more life into it, trying to make their, you know, events structured better, resources better, gacha better, all the things you can think of, right? And we ultimately, most of us got to the point where we just burned out, right? Which is why I kind of get why you guys, like, I get those comments regularly. Like, some people are just like, hey man, like, I burned out right now. I don't want to be in PvP, you know, hell. And I get it, right? Or sorry, PvE hell. And I get it. So the thing is that that situation was a little bit worse because they didn't really communicate certain things or really much at all for like 7, 8 months, right? And so we got reskinned events. It was just the run along, right? Like we just got the same old every single time. And the craziest thing is that after that period of time where actually most of us left, I think currently on that game it's about 2 players left, or sorry, 2 content creators left. When they added the CN version of the game, about probably a month into them having the CN version out, they started to add all of the features, all of the functions, all of the things that we had been pushing for. Like every last thing. And I know that to be a fact because I even had players that still play today come back and say, Zox, every last thing that you advised them to do, every last thing, they have now put into the game. Right now, granted, they are still obviously going downhill to some degree, which, hey, I don't know the ins and outs of that. And I don't really speak about things I don't really know too much about. But from the experience I had, what I see happening with Etheria, with us getting the news that they're launching the CN server, it's this thing I noticed that these companies will sometimes do where they will try to like save content, if that makes sense. And it's like because they have the CN server coming out to like so close to I guess like I guess it's like next month, right? It's like in September. It seems like what they usually try to do is like they try to save all those major QOL enhancements and changes and revamps and buffs and all that stuff for when they launch the newer version. And even after the newer version comes out, I don't think it's going to be immediate. I think it's going to be like probably a month maybe into that release. But that's something that they can release and kind of present as like ooh, look at these nice things we're doing. Now, what I'm saying is not necessarily justification because I'm not justifying the actual thing that they do. What I'm saying is that this just kind of feels exactly like that because that kind of is what Dislike did, right? They released the newer regions and then all of the enhancements, like even down to like accessibility to what we had equivalent value, which are shimmers to LDs. They started doing like they started doing like selectors and stuff like that for those shimmers and stuff. And so it was like that then led into them making, you know, resources more attainable. Like it was like that was the unpackaging and unfolding of us getting those QOL changes. But unfortunately, there was a lot of players at the point where they didn't care anymore, right? Like I think that that's the thing that like they have to be very careful of, is that you know, when you're trying to, I guess, like hold out to make certain changes, like there's players that are asking for like new story. I don't think that's going to happen until the new regions launch. It doesn't make any sense for it to. And like I said, I don't even think it's going to be immediate. I would be surprised if it is, but I think that that's when we're going to see like a massive major like patch on the game, is when these newer servers come into the game, right? Like I just think that's what they're going to do. And it just makes sense because then they can just drop everything all at once versus having to, like, I don't know, like trying to expect people to catch up and get caught up. And like you guys mentioned, some things definitely do need to be considered, right? Like right now they're saying, you know, the characters they're releasing are going to be like the Rengoku killers, right? Or like help us with Rengoku. And so it's like, okay, for those newer players coming in, how are they going to get access to those characters? I'd say personally, I don't think it's necessarily going to be so much of a issue, just because that's kind of how the initial grind of the game is set up. You pull to flesh out your roster, and there's no guarantee you'll get anything necessarily specific. But I also can see what they're trying to do, whereas if they have more units in the game, and this gives you more of a wider variety to pick from, then you're not going to have the exact same issues we had on launch, where the limited choices made it much harder for us to be able to navigate and to progress throughout the game, because those choices just weren't there. So I think that that's kind of the thing. Like, say like a new player starting now, or even like 6 months from now, if they have more units to choose from, they're not going to necessarily come across the exact same issues in the exact same format that we did, because they're going to have the ability to say, okay, well, on launch, there was only this one unit that could do this, but now there's 5 units that can do this. But I think that this kind of goes back to, even for those of you guys that have been here since I covered JJK, we have to, like, I think companies have to also normalize the fact that whenever you're trying to like expedite a process, or you're trying to add more, right? Like you have to kind of make that process not feel so harsh to your players. Because I think like that was like things that kind of happened to like JJK. JJK was actually a really, really good game, but they wanted to speed up everything, add more characters sooner, so that players, obviously there could be more units in the game, but they didn't really give more currency for players to actually make that process feel better. So it just was a whole bunch of banners coming in, and then players couldn't really keep up with those banners. Like I said, in this game, it's not really so much the units themselves coming in, it's the lattice investment, right? So I can say, at least in that game, like building a unit's not really the craziest thing, but I will say in this game, that's where we get the bottleneck. It's like, okay, we have to invest and make investment choices, and that's really what's going to be like kind of interesting to see. I think, yes, like the argument, like over time, will things average out? Sure, right? It's possible. But it doesn't change the fact of what players are currently experiencing. And I think, like, yeah, you do have to kind of balance that out, like what you want to do in the future, and also what players are currently experiencing, right? Like it can't just be all about the preemptive preparation for the future. You have to deal with the current like issues on hand, because that's your current player base, right? And I feel like a lot of successful games, word of mouth is so important, man. Like I've played so many games, or even have seen certain games thrive for so long because they had good player retention. Their players were happy, even if not with everything, but just generally across the board being, you know, comfortable with putting out like, hey, this game is great. I think like, hey, over time, they're going to add this, they're going to do this. I mean, a lot of us are experiencing that with Silver and Blood right now. I feel like that game is doing such an amazing job with how they're presenting everything. And even if that player base, which I think they're actually killing it on like the CN side, if I'm not mistaken, even if that player base is fairly small on the global side, I think that players are going to be like more than willing to come and play during like anniversary, or, during like collaborations, whenever they start that up. I think that that's the one thing that they have to be, worried about. It's like, yeah, if you want a game long term, yes, there are going to be returning players. Yes, there's going to always be new players, but not at the ratio or rate that you might think. especially if a lot of the first content that you guys see, not for myself, but when people search up the game and they're seeing a lot of negative stuff, that's going to obviously affect somebody's first opinion of something, right? And it might not even be necessarily the truth at that moment, but if that's the flux of what you have being presented, it's definitely going to affect the opinion of somebody, which most people usually will see things like for the first time and they formulate their opinions then. So yeah, I just personally feel like that's what we're actually going to be seeing, is a lot of these changes are going to be happening when the CN side, JP and KR come. Because the other thing with that too is logically, right? And I'm just saying this from a logical standpoint, they can't make certain mistakes that they're making now with a much bigger, community. Not that it won't happen, right? Because I think mistakes are bound to happen, but I will say in how they've been handling them and how, and just how everything's been like kind of going. There's no way that's gonna fly on like a CN release, JP release, and KR release, man. Like, so I also think that like that player base, as much as it sucks to say, it was the same thing that kind of like happened with Dislight. I think that those player bases, it's possible that they could become the majority, right? In terms of like who's really affecting the economy, like in terms of like how much money the game actually makes. Kind of the same thing happened on Dislight, where just transparency, right? The other markets became the bigger markets. So them pushing for certain things became more present. And so they really, honestly, I felt like were the major reason why a lot of stuff changed, outside of the initial things that we had already pushed. But we'll see. I mean, they said that they're going to be taking feedback seriously from everybody. But I'm like, as much as a person that's like non like dramatic and I don't like making drama content and stuff like that. I think that there's a point of which where you have to at least give constructive criticism and feedback on things. You can't be oblivious to like obviously what the state of something is. I think that that's kind of like the issue in some cases. But I also feel like too, like for me, I think things are okay as if there's another component added to it. So I feel like sometimes people will hear me say like, oh, I think that's cool. Cause I said that initially, like with Batsby and Nifo and AL. I'm like, I mean, that's fine. I mean, but it always comes with a but. They need to have currency for that to make sense, or the characters need to they need to come out like out the box, not needing or requiring a ton of investment for it not to feel and look crazy, right? And so I feel like that's a lot of things. But yeah, I mean, all I can say right now, guys, is give the feedback. If you already did, we just got to wait at this point. I think it's just kind of beating on a dead horse every single update. I don't think it's going to happen in these updates, maybe closer to the CN release. And then even thereafter, I could see a lot more stuff happening, but I don't think personally it's going to be all right now. I think they're going to cook it up, and then we'll be probably seeing that stuff more so like going into next month. But yeah, that's just my thought and process on that. I just wanted to kind of share that with you guys. I think, again, if you guys are from the Dislike community and you want to add to that experience, definitely let people let people know, because and I'm not saying this to compare like what was worse or not, but it was probably one of the worst experiences I had in the game. I've like never had that specifically happen. And like I said, not communicating for that long was kind of insane. But I will say, we are starting to see them like at least try to communicate things a little bit better. So we'll see. We'll see how things go. But yeah, guys, that's basically going to be that with this one. I hope you guys are having an amazing day. We are going to be streaming today on Twitch and as well as on YouTube, twitch.tv/Zoxaskun. Hope to see you guys there. But that's going to be that with this one, guys. Everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.